Welcome back. Now, following the festive season, Eastern Cape authorities are raising concerns over the behaviour of road users. Drunk driving, overloading and pedestrians not adhering to the road rules are some of the concerns. Traffic officials have set up roadblocks in efforts to enforce the law. eNCA's Ronald Masinda has been following this story and he joins me now live. Ronald, it obviously was a very busy festive season, but it seems as though a lot of people were unfortunately involved in some horrific car accidents, and luckily some were able to survive this, and you've managed to speak to some of those. What have they told you?
Well, Heidi, one person that we spoke to was involved in a very bizarre accident. This lady, Misiwe Nongalo, was traveling to Whittlesea for a holiday for a couple of days with a 16-year-old son. She is a traffic officer, 36-year-old, who works here in Gqeberha. So while on a travel between Makhanda and Fort Beaufort, there was a truck that was coming from the opposite direction. And once these two vehicles, the one that she was traveling in and the truck, were close to each other, the truck seemingly was carrying a rod, an iron rod, and this iron rod became loose, and like a spear, Heidi, this iron rod pierced through the windscreen of Misiwe Nongalo and striking her instantly, and she became unconscious following that strike, which was to her upper body. And her son, who is believed to be a hero in this whole story, a 16-year-old, managed to steer the vehicle and also drive the vehicle to a position where he could get help for his mother. And what happened was a few anxious days following that event that took place on the 20th of December, where Misiwe's condition seemed critical, but she has since managed to survive the whole ordeal. Unfortunately, the truck driver was not caught following this accident, but we heard from her earlier on. This is what she had to say.
Honestly, I thank God I did survive that day. How did I survive? I still ask myself even today, but how did I survive? Remember, it's December. I was excited to go home with my son. Suddenly, there was a truck coming in front of me. After that, I don't remember anything that was happening. When I woke up, there was a big steel in front of me, which was hanging. And then I passed out again. I couldn't do anything. The only concern in my mind was my son, who was next to me. I remember calling him Ndoda. He responded by saying, "No, don't move, sit down." And then I lost my consciousness again. I don't know what happened after that.
Truly horrific. She's really lucky to be alive. Ronald, I want to speak about the roadblocks. You know, we always see these massive roadblocks, especially during the festive season. They are very common. They're around almost every corner. But the big question is, how effective are they? And do they actually serve a purpose in saving lives? What have you been able to establish?
So since the previous festive season, the Eastern Cape, in terms of its death toll, it was reduced by at least 7.9%. Back in 2020, 2021, around 228 people died on Eastern Cape roads. And then the following year of the festive season, around 210 people died. And from then on, the authorities said that since this looks good in terms of its numbers and the reduction, and also comparing it to the national roads where there was a lot of carnage on South African roads, they did vow to intensify efforts. So throughout the festive season, we've seen quite a lot of roadblocks. But the concern is, however, Heidi, is that a lot of people are just not abiding by the law. Today, here in Gqeberha, we were at one of the roadblocks where one gentleman, for example, has had his license disc. It has expired for 3 years. I mean, 3 years, Heidi, that's unbelievable. And then other vehicles, they simply are just not roadworthy. One of the issues here in Gqeberha with traffic officials and what they are grappling with are drunk drivers. I mean, there are quite alarming numbers of drunk drivers. People have been arrested between the months of October, November, and December. The month of October, of course, being a transport month. But those efforts have been intensified throughout the festive season. We've seen arrests. We've seen people being, taken into custody. Some of them having a lot of tickets that they haven't paid up. So they have been effective in some instances, but one hopes that this happens throughout the course of the year as many people will continue breaking the law if these efforts don't continue to be intensified. We also heard, Heidi, from the acting director for traffic here in Nelson Mandela Bay earlier on. This is what he had to say.
I must say we still have a concern. More especially to the public transport. Overload is still very high, which is concerning us the most. Drunken driving is also high, which is concerning us the most. Driving without a driving license is also too high. But when we look into the roadworthiness of vehicles in our area, I must say since October, when we look into the stats that have come down, and the most thing that we're so happy about is accidents in our areas. More especially as we have been talking about pedestrian on a public road. I must say we only have 4 fatalities. But even that doesn't give us a joy. We would love to have 0 into that. Even the number of accidents where vehicles are involved without pedestrians, that only 2 crashes and whatsoever, we only have 17. We would love to drop that into 0.